Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're looking at something pretty fascinating happening in Ghana, a real shift in strategy, you could say. And the big question we're trying to unpack is, well, what happens when a country's military does more than just defense? Like, actually becomes a main driver for building roads, infrastructure, transforming the economy. Our insights for this deep dive, they come from a YouTube video transcript that lays out this pretty bold approach.
Exactly. And our mission here is really to explore this ambitious vision, what's driving it, the urgent needs, and the bigger picture implications of Ghana's armed forces stepping into roles usually handled by civilian companies. It's quite a story of nation building, maybe redefined.
Okay, so to really get a handle on this, let's talk about a specific project, a big one, the Accra-Kumasi Expressway. We're talking about a 250-kilometer road connecting two major cities, Accra and Kumasi. Super important link. And President John Rahani Mahama, he's promised this under his Big Push infrastructure program.
Yeah.
Sounds like feasibility studies, the design work, it's all starting soon. They want to, I think the phrase was cut the sword early next year. Get it moving.
Yeah, and that road is just critical, especially for the Ashanti region. That's the second biggest region in Ghana by population. So this isn't just tarmac. It's about economic potential, social connections for a huge number of people, commerce, access, all of it.
Right, so the road itself is vital. But you mentioned urgency. Why does this road need fixing now? Is it just about improving traffic flow, or is there something more serious going on? And why the military? That seems like the key question here.
Well, the urgency comes down to safety. Really, the statistics are quite alarming. In 2024 alone, Ghana saw over 13,489 road crashes. Think about that number. And those crashes led to more than 2,400 deaths, over 15,000 injuries. And a lot of those accidents, a lot, happened right on this Accra-Kumasi road. There was one incident just horrific back in March 2024. 21 people died in one crash on one day. So, yeah, this project, fundamentally, it's about saving lives. It's about making sure people can travel safely, efficiently. That's the crisis driving this. Wow. Okay. That puts it in perspective. 21 lives. So given that, the defense minister, Dr. Aiden Bama, made this announcement. He said, this massive project, it's not going to foreign contractors, not Chinese companies, not European ones. Instead, the Ghana Armed Forces, the GAF, they're going to lead the construction. Now, that's a big decision. What's the thinking there? Why put the military on road building? It's a really bold move, isn't it? The rationale seems to be about trust and efficiency, essentially betting on their own forces. There's a belief, it seems, that the military can do it faster and maybe cheaper. They're seen as trustworthy, disciplined enough to work around the clock, day and night. Fits into this idea they have of a 24-hour economy, keeping things moving constantly. The thinking is the GAF has the skills, the discipline, and definitely the tools to get it done quicker, more efficiently than perhaps outside contractors might. It's a strong statement about relying on their own capabilities. Self-reliance.
Okay, so behind this military-led push, there's this entity called DHawk, the Defense Industries Holding Company. Sounds important. They're calling it the engine of Ghana's defense-driven industrial renaissance. That phrase itself, defense-driven industrial renaissance, tells you a lot. It's not just about building a road. Ghana seems to view its military now as like a core engine for growth, not just protection. Is that right?
That's exactly the implication. DHawk represents this new chapter, positioning the armed forces right at the center of industrial and economic change. And, it's not an idea out of thin air. It was apparently envisioned by the late President John Ian Zatamas. Now it's being brought back, revitalized under President Mahama, with a much bigger mandate, part of this whole Reset Ghana agenda, which seems to be a broad program for national transformation, really pushing for self-sufficiency across the board.
And they've put a new board in charge of DHawk, described as innovative, action-oriented. Their job, apparently, is to turn talk and plenty prose into action and verifiable outcomes. So it's about making sure this actually happens and also getting the GAF onto a path of sustainable financing so the military pays for itself in a way.
Absolutely. That seems to be a core part of the strategy. DHawk's goal isn't just projects. It's laying the groundwork for a Ghana that's resilient, industrialized, a Ghana that can, quote, feed itself, empower its people, and thrive. That's ambitious stuff. The source we looked at even mentioned Egypt's model, suggesting Ghana might be looking at how Egypt's military is deeply involved in their economy. And yes, the idea is that these commercial activities will generate revenue for the military, making them less dependent on the national budget.
The Egypt comparison is, wow, that's aiming high. But okay, so the expressway is the flagship. But it's not the only thing the military is involved in now, right? What other projects show this kind of expanded role?
No, it's broader than just the one highway. For example, the GAF is also involved, or planning to be involved, with the Ghana Bauxite Company. They're partnering on about 180 kilometers of roadwork. This is on the ASO Takoradi corridor. That road is essential for getting Ghana's bauxite, a key resource, to the Takoradi port, which, interestingly, the GAF already protects. Apparently, that road's been getting hammered by overloaded trucks hauling the bauxite. So the military stepping in there is seen as showcasing their engineering skills and their commitment to national development.
Okay, so strategic roads for resources. And I think you mentioned something about food, like food sovereignty and large-scale commercial farming. That feels like a really big jump from traditional military duties. How does that work?
It is a big jump, but it seems central to the plan. DHawk is actively developing these large-scale farming projects. It ties directly into President Mahama's Feed Ghana program. And they're not doing it alone. They're working closely with, well, basically everyone. The Ministry of Food and Agriculture, the President's Office for Special Initiatives, that 24-hour Economy Secretariat again, National Service Authority, even private companies. The idea seems to be using the military's discipline, their logistics capabilities, their scale, to boost production of key foods. Things like maize, soya, rice, even getting into the poultry sector. And the fact that the Chief of Defense Staff is openly backing this policy tells you it's serious. It's being integrated right at the top.
Right, so it really is a comprehensive shift. Roads, resources, food, it's across the board. So, big picture then. What does all this really mean for Ghana's future? And how might it change how Ghana deals with, the rest of the world, external partners?
Well, zooming out, the core message seems pretty clear. Ghana is charting a new path. That's the takeaway from the source material. They're explicitly saying they're not just going to wait for outsiders anymore. Instead, it's about, and I'm quoting roughly here, trusting our people, our soldiers, to build roads, grow our food, and protect our lives, and carry this economy forward. So the conclusion drawn is pretty stark. Ghana's armed forces are no longer just defending the country. They are actively building it. It's a fundamental shift towards using internal strength, military strength, for national development, a real pivot to self-reliance.
A fundamental shift indeed. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into Ghana's really interesting new strategy. It definitely makes you think differently about what defense can mean, doesn't it? So, something for you to consider. What are the long-term implications when a nation's military takes on such a central role in infrastructure and the economy, moving way beyond traditional defense? And how might a model like this change how the world sees the role of the military in actually building a nation?